So again, welcome to our Neighborhood Passion Affinity Network. Tonight we have a really exciting topic. The topic is, what is good development? And we've had a chance already to get to know the people in the room and to find out what we found out is we have people from all over the city here, both those in the urban core and out in the more country regions. So we got a good mix of people to really have a good conversation about a big question. What is good development? And I'm not going to be try to manipulate this conversation that much. I just would like to ask that we consider that topic. And maybe if you have something to contribute, one idea that you would like to contribute tonight, to contribute that first so that everybody gets a chance to chime in. And then if we have missed another quality of good development, certainly feel free to do that. But I want to give everybody a chance to share at least one thought on the topic of what is good development. And so let's start. Gosh, we got such a wise group. Who wants to hit us with the first thing that they feel really strongly about that says this is good development?
I'd be happy to go first, if that's all right.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to give you a little shock. Our dog has decided no longer to be involved, and this is me.
Bring the dog back.
Bring the dog back. I can do that. I can do that, but just the push of a button, you know. Yeah. See, that's the beauty of it. We have all learned to work within this Zoom world that we're living in. I listened to John's introduction, and he's familiar with our area out here. Is my input volume okay?
Yes, good.
Thank you. We have had several development plans put in front of the Planning Commission, and many of them have gone and changed the zoning from things like, RSs to SPs. SPs, to me, are nothing but they wind up being a quagmire of potential problems for the existing neighborhoods, I should say. Specifically, everyone that's come in has not addressed the infrastructure prior to the 150 or 200 or 300 homes that they want to build on the acreage here and there and down the road. We are still, we're general services. We're not urban services. We don't have a lot of the road enhancements. We don't have turn lanes, and we don't have enough traffic control. And in our area, it seems as though we're putting the cart before the horse. And all of these things come out of the Planning Commission. And I think the strength of the developers, no matter who they are or how strong they are in the overall scheme, don't take into account things like, in our case, Wilson County traffic coming into Central Pike, Old Limnan Dirt Road in North New Hope, which is completely, it's an absolute nightmare on rush hours pre-COVID, of course. So the process of community input, community forums, when there is a zoning change from rural ag property, we still have agriculture property out here, and they'll take 10 or 20 or 30 acres and say they're going to put a senior center. Well, all of a sudden the senior center backers backed out, and now the developer says, well, I'm going to put in 250 apartment units. Well, the senior center didn't have much of an effect on the traffic, but the apartments certainly do. Infrastructure prior to development, I think, is imperative, and those developers need to be held accountable to get that stuff on paper before they start their digging and building. That's a comment I have made on several public forums to
Good. Thanks, Michael. What I wrote down, I hope this captures it. Good development addresses the infrastructure issues, turn lanes, traffic control, numbers of lanes, etc. All right, thank you. Now, what I want to be careful of tonight is that we don't get caught up focusing on just one issue. So does someone want to suggest something else that is about good development? Something else that we need to put on our list? See, Ingrid has her hand up and her mic's muted.
What? You can't read my lips like Mike did? Okay.
He has better eyesight.
So the affordable housing across Nashville is an issue, but because the location of McFerrin Park being right, as I say, extension of downtown, it really has come up several times. It's affordable housing. All right. And you can't require a developer to have affordable housing as a component. You can discuss it with them, but it's not a mandatory. There's no way the state can enforce that. All right. But you have to develop a good relationship with the developer to have them be a person of their word and understand that is key to any approval that they need from your community in order to go forward. And also to understand what does that look like? So we have affordable housing. I don't know what the range is, price point, and the range is as far as how many units. So, I mean, those are the things I've worked on, but I sometimes don't know if I'm beating them with a feather or beating them with a hammer. So
I've written down good development includes affordable housing.
yes.
All right. Somebody else got something they want to contribute. Good development includes or addresses or.
Ingrid, the other day when we were talking, you discussed parking issues. I think that goes to development as well.
Yes. I still say it's an antiquated calculation that the state has for, or the county has for as how many parking spaces are allocated by bedroom. It's like 1.2 or something like that fraction. And that was developed, I think it was back in the 70s. And I'm like, come on, if you have a 1 bedroom and you have 2 adults in there, you have 2 cars. I mean, the day of people having 1 vehicle for a household is long gone. They need to increase that number, because what you have is people intruding upon the neighborhood with parking. So yeah, having adequate parking is a problem.
Thanks. Thank you. Somebody else, hit us with your best shot.
John, what I would like to recommend that developers build in such a way that it reflects the existing that are already there. Like, for example, you have a row of, like Riverside Drive, we have a row of Tudors. Don't put an ultra modern thing next to a Tudor. Make your house look like a Tudor. I don't know. That's just one pet peeve that I have, is building something that complements the existing environment that these homes are built in.
All right. Good development builds structures that reflect existing buildings. Good. Good. Keep them coming, folks. You're doing great.
Green space. Green space, green space. I have, and this is quick, I have a lot, standard 50 by 150, 175. And I counted the trees. There must have been a good 20 something trees on this lot. Some of them small, couple of major size. And now how many there are there? 0. They cut them all down, grinded it to the ground.
Thank you. Okay, John, you've been doing this since I was in diapers. Not really. What's your big point? I know I can call on you.
Well, you may have still been in short pants, but not diapers. You're showing your age these days. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Well, there's that. That's been around for a while. Yeah. Well, I'm fascinated to hear what other people have to say. It's interesting. SPs. If I think in whole, the problem that we have is that there are no professionals working for the neighbors of Davidson County. We don't have any land use planners, architects, road engineers, school planners. There's nobody that actually is there to make sure that our interests are taken care of. We've got a planning department, but right now their interests are in developing land. And it drives me crazy. But so what we've been trying to do is create a revenue stream that allows us to hire professionals to work for us, land use attorneys, landscape architects, so that SP plans can actually be created that are not only enforceable by the city, but then through other contracts with the neighborhood that the neighborhood can enforce those standards by themselves. Because that's another one of the issues with the SPs and really all zonings is that our codes department, God bless them, everyone, they've never really been the pinnacle of responsiveness that I think we all hoped they would be. And it just amazes me that is still probably a true statement. So the ability to have professionals working with neighborhoods, focusing on their interests, making sure that the standards that step back, the things that you all have said are not dissimilar from stuff that I've heard for 30 years. And the problem is taking those things and putting them into measurable and enforceable units on paper. And so we're working through that process. Obviously with restrictive covenants, you can do some of that, but then those are changeable by the HOAs or by the developer until they turn over the HOAs. But the things the thing that would make for better development is the ability to have relationships between neighbors, developers, and metropolitan government all at the same level. So everybody has the capacity to interact with the same vocabulary or similar vocabularies, with the same relative power. The big challenge these days is the state of Tennessee. And the state of Tennessee has the ability to take all the power that we have, what little power we have as neighbors, and take it away from us. And they hate Nashville, so they wouldn't mind doing it. So we're walking a tightrope trying to get these major developers and their attorneys to kind of agree to do this more intensive compromise and accounting and contracting with community groups, and not ask for so much that they'll go to their state leaders through the Home Builders Association and through the Road Builders Association and get them to change the zoning laws of the state of Tennessee. Enough?
Good. Thanks, John. It's a brilliant idea. And if anybody can get it done, it's going to be you. So I'm glad you're working on that.
Well, we could use everybody's help. I think that's the final thing, or the real thing that has changed over the years. We started with a community that wasn't organized into neighborhoods, and in the 70s and 80s, they started creating organization, and in the 90s, we created a power base that elected mayors and elected council people and changed zoning laws and brought in new directors of planning. And then over the next 10 years or so, we became complacent, I think. And for a number of reasons, we quit focusing on organizing neighborhoods to create power as a county of neighborhoods. And so somebody might need to do that again, if you have any ideas.
Well, I can tell you the good news on our front here at Neighbor to Neighbor is we have 13 neighborhood associations that are currently forming. So we're growing. I've been here 8 years, and this last 2 years have been the busiest year for growing neighborhood associations that I've experienced. I hope that trend continues because it is important. Erika and James, I want to give you all an opportunity to chime in. What's your thinking? You don't have to, but if you want to, we'd love to learn from you.
I think from my end, it's so when we had first moved here, we were looking for houses and we almost moved to Inglewood. We had an offer on a house. With my background, I've been involved in community development, and something just made me think like, I don't really know this area. I ought to research a little. And I did find that there's a big old church that was next to the house was actually coming down. And then there's proposed 82 or 89 studio apartments, which I'm not even saying that that's bad, but I'm saying as a homeowner or potential buyer, the fact that there wouldn't have been any reason for me to think that maybe there's going to be 89 units coming up. Sorry, to Ingrid's earlier comment, this apartment complex intentionally had like 65 parking spots for the 89 units because it was to encourage public transportation. And I'm like, that's not what's going to happen. They're all going to be parked on my street. So, so the way I discovered it though was looking online. I came across Nashville Next, and to me, I was extremely impressed at the amount of time and research and planning had gone into it, and that it was being shared. To me, that is essential. That there are many parts of the Nashville Next that I might not personally care for, but the fact that it was community development was extremely impressive to me, because otherwise, other places I've been, it's all about zoning and one particular project. Like, oh, could we take down this building and replace it with apartments? And it's always piecemeal. And I still experience that in my neighborhood in Madison. I'm hoping that goes away over time, and that there's a plan, a long-term plan, and everyone knows the plan, instead of, well, here comes a big developer with big money and we need tax revenue and they're willing to turn this one property around. because the people living there didn't have any say, and they didn't have any insight to know that it was even possible. So kind of a long way to answer that. I think the key to community planning is community planning and not one-off zoning decisions that happen without neighbors knowing.
Thank you. Very helpful. James, do you have anything you want to chime in on?
I think I'm going to be the odd duck here, as the YIMBYist, where I think that good development is dense, and it treats reliance on cars as the thing that should be more flexible than how we live. I think we develop too much with car usage fixed, and then we develop how we live and build around that as though cars are permanent, instead of, building with a more sustainable, walkable, shared green space, dense vision that then lets our transportation habits adapt to that. So that's my vision for good development.
And I want to make sure I'm capturing that, because I think you're making an important point. Good development encourages less car usage and includes more walkable and green space.
I mean, I think it would, but what I'm really saying is, like, it lets people figure out how we live first, how we use cars second, is kind of just the simple part of it, instead of flipped.
If I might comment a little bit here.
Yes.
I'm born and raised in Chicago. Oh, sorry. But I've lived all over the country. Chicago, when I was young, which is a long time ago, had exactly what James is talking about. I grew up in a neighborhood with sidewalks. I grew up in a neighborhood with alleys and garages, and I was able to walk to public transportation and get from where I lived to where I wanted to go in a reasonable amount of time at a reasonable expense. And there are very few cities today, other than the older cities that were developed 50, 60, 100 years ago, that were able to integrate that type of superstructure, transportation system. And what I like to hear about is a real plan that doesn't cost all of taxpayers' money to get people from A to B. We live out in the area of the Music City Star. It is not making money. It is not well used because its interconnectability is poor. We are a city with a center. There should be spokes out of the center of that wheel. And whether it's trains or buses or surface mount transportation, James, I fully support your density, but density without the concentration of individual vehicles. One driver, one vehicle going A to B.
Yeah, and part of, like, the way I see it is that you allow density, and then the distance between your point A's and B's gets to shrink. If you can have more people in a square mile, that square mile can support a grocery store. That square mile supports a general store. That square mile has its own school. And now everything's, less than is a half mile away instead of being 4 miles away, because we filled that space between with all the crap we thought we needed to support our cars. Like
Amen.
Places to put them, extra lanes for them, places to put them when we get where we're going, places to put them when we start where we start. Get rid of all that, and everything the space shrinks, and you don't need them in the first place.
Back to Ingrid's statement about 1.2 or whatever cars per bedroom. The car shouldn't be the standard based on how on the accommodation of the vehicle, it just doesn't work that way. Your point, I don't know, did you grow up in Nashville, James?
No, I didn't.
Did you grow up somewhere where there was transportation from? No,
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 no.
you're rural. Okay.
Yeah, I'm from rural Alabama. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But, and while I'm on for a second, Ingrid, your comment about green space, you can't tear down all the trees on a 50 by 200 lot. Not only is it an eyesore, but it's also environmentally an absolute, you know, the trees, the greenery helps us breathe. And when you tear down trees, you're enhancing the carbon dioxide numbers because we can't clean the air without those photosynthetic friends of ours. Oh, and by the way, green space is not a retention pond that is 20 feet deep in order to take a 2010 flood, which ours was that deep, but didn't help a darn. And that is considered, quote, green space. No. You can't do a thing with it until it turns into a semi-swimming pool.
Yeah, and the way they're doing their stormwater management, we're fortunate to have a Mill Creek conservation organization that was headed by, well, we've got a biologist that's heading it now, but before that we had a landscape expert. And so they're coming up with different ways to do it. Bioretention is what you're talking about, but they're talking about other systems. I don't know what they're talking about. All I know is I've committed it to paper so we can put it in a contract.
I'm sorry, I just looked at our time and we're running out. Any final comments that folks want to make tonight? Was this helpful?
This was very interesting to hear all the perspectives of different sections of the city. For some reason, I felt being new to neighbor, I thought it was more concentrated in areas because, you know, I'm a member of DHNA, which is one of those Donaldson Hermitage, Old Hickory segments of the city. It doesn't include Englewood and Cane Ridge and so on, but this is a broader focus, and I like that. Thank you.
Yeah. In order for our city to succeed, if we're truly going to have a great city, we have got to respect and care for all the neighborhoods across the metropolitan area. And that's going to require a network of committed people working in those neighborhoods and across the metropolitan area for that to happen. And unfortunately, we're still at the point where we can name the people who are really engaged in this. And we've got to get beyond that. And we've got to have these conversations because I think James might have felt like he was the outsider by what he said.
No.
Man out. And in reality, I don't think he is. But you know, until we sit down and talk like this and have these conversations, we don't know. We're just wondering on our own. So I'm glad. Oh, good. Thank you. I'm going to put this in right now. James, I was having hearing problems. John, to your point about my age, and I couldn't hear everything that was being said, but good development puts good living first and lets car usage adapt instead of making good living have to adapt to car usage.
Very good.
Got that in there too. All right.
Jim?
Yes.
Ed Branding.
Hi, Ed Branding.
I joined during the Mill Creek comments. My computer decided that this would be a wonderful time to do an hour-long update. So I just now, instead of being early, I'm the slow one. Is this going to be somewhere where I can go ahead and pull it up out of an archive somewhere?
It absolutely is. Our video editor takes about 7 to 10 days to edit it. And then it's on our YouTube channel, our Vimeo channel. And when our website comes up in January, it'll be on our website as well. So
I'll wait 10 days and I'll go to YouTube.
Yeah, you'll be able to review our words of wisdom that you so missed tonight.
Right.
So thanks, Ed. I'm glad you were able to make it, even if it was just for a few seconds.
Well, nice to be able to wave hello to everybody, except my internet camera isn't working. So just imagine me waving hello.
Hey, Tony, I wanted to show you the real Michael. Here you go.
Oh,
Joey, look at the camera. Look at the camera. Up here, up here. Joey, don't. Yes, yes, yes. Over and out.
all right. So we are going to take a few weeks off for winter break. We'll be back on January 7th to visit with Robin Ziegler to learn about the mission and services that the Metro Historical Commission does. Now, just imagine a broad overview of all the things that they do at the Metro Historical Commission. That's what Robin will be presenting. In the meantime, I want to encourage you to consider registering for 2 courses that begin in January. The first one is the Art and Science of Facilitation. If you meetings are changing, and I think that one of the most difficult things that chairs of neighborhood organizations have to do is really chair effective neighborhood meetings. And so we're going to be doing a 4-session course on how to actually facilitate these meetings. Second of all, Policy and Zoning 101 is coming out. For those of you not familiar, a couple of years ago, we put together a great group of people, 27 people from across metropolitan Nashville and Davidson County, and came up with a white paper on what we should be doing as far as changes to the metro planning and zoning process. One of the things that we talked about, these are neighborhood leaders, that they felt was very important, was that there needed to be a place that people could go to actually learn about the metro planning and zoning, policy and zoning. And so Policy and Zoning 101 is a 4-session course, which Ingrid is joining us as a faculty member on. It's a 4-session course that is offered in January and one Saturday in February as well, really introducing the metro planning and zoning process. So we talk about the terminology, we talk about the stakeholders, we talk about the actual process, and then bring all of that together, plus learn all the little, talk about and look at some of the tools that metro planning and zoning have available for us. So if you have a chance to, I would encourage you to sign up sooner rather than later. The policy and zoning class, we only have in-person registration right now. The virtual link, virtual participation has blown up. We have no more spaces available. It's popular. I will say that we do a very good job here with social distancing and keeping everybody safe for in-person. We had our first in-person class back in October, and everybody remained healthy. I wish I could say wealthy, but I do believe wise. And so I encourage you to think about possibly attending that way as well. Those 2 courses I put in the chat room, the links to sign up for. Again, these are going pretty quickly, so if you want to do them, please go ahead and do that, register as quickly as possible. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. I'll look forward to seeing you again, hopefully on the 7th of January, or maybe at one of the 2 courses that we're offering in January. But we really appreciate your input tonight and look forward to talking about this some more on down the road.
Thank
Jim,
you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Ed, one thing, the last time I saw Robin Ziegler was at a public seminar about changes to make more uniform the historic zoning so that each area had its own thing, but they looked a little similar and had similar presentations and so forth. And I would suggest it would be good for Robin to update everybody on where that stands, because that was moving along and then all this stuff hit. So it'd be nice to see where that process stands.
Good. I will encourage her to do that as well.
Thank you.
Tony, did you notice that Erica had to bring her friend into the picture?
No,
It was a cat, but you know,
oh, that's okay.
what can I say? What can I say?
Well, everybody, thank you so much.
Thank you,
have a
Jim.
great few weeks here. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.